We're about to dive into a really fascinating story, drawn from a lecture by Radhanath Swami. It's about a young boy who gets offered everything you could possibly imagine, but his response? It's the complete opposite of what you'd expect. Honestly, it's a story that really makes you stop and rethink what's truly valuable.
So get this. The hero of our story is a 5-year-old boy named Prahlada. He's offered unimaginable power and wealth directly from the divine. But Prahlada looks at all these amazing blessings and, as Radhanath Swami puts it, sees them as impediments, as obstacles. I mean, how on earth could ultimate power be an obstacle?
And that's the big question we're going to unpack today. Why would somebody, especially someone who has gone through so much suffering, just turn down the ultimate prize? Well, the answer reveals a really profound perspective on love, on desire, and what happiness is all about.
All right, so let's set the scene. Lord Narasimhadeva appears, and he is just so incredibly pleased with this little boy Prahlada for his unshakable devotion, so he offers him anything. Literally anything he could dream up, a blank check from the universe. But to really get why Prahlada responds the way he does, you first have to know what he just went through.
And you really need to understand this part because it's crucial. Prahlada was not living some cushy life. His own father, a super powerful king named Hiranyakashipu, absolutely hated his son's devotion and tried to have him killed over and over again. We're talking horrible, horrible suffering. And through it all, Prahlada never once complained. He just kept his focus. So you can imagine, this makes his rejection of the ultimate reward even more mind-blowing.
So why say no? Prahlada's choice really gets to the core of this lecture's main point. It's all about two totally different ways of approaching our spiritual lives.
Okay, so on one side, you have what the lecture calls doing business with God. You know, it's a transaction. I say my prayers, I follow the rules, and in return, I expect to get good health, wealth, success. My worship is basically a means to an end. But on the other side, you have pure devotion. It's not about getting anything at all. The act of serving is the goal. You don't want God to serve you, you just want to serve God.
And this is a really critical idea from the lecture. The moment we start asking for material stuff, we completely flip the relationship on its head. We're no longer the servant. We're basically treating the divine like our personal order supplier. And according to this philosophy, that desire to be the one who enjoys instead of the one who serves is the very root of our problems.
And Prahlada just lays it all out there. He literally tells the Lord, I am not a vanik, which means a merchant or a businessman. He's saying, look, my love for you isn't some kind of deal. I'm not here to trade. I'm just here to serve you. It's such a radical way to think about the real purpose of devotion.
Now, to really grasp why Prahlada saw all these material goodies as a dangerous trap, we have to understand how the lecture describes the world we're all living in.
The lecture uses a very specific and very powerful word: misery. Not inconvenience, not just, oh, things aren't going my way. Misery. And it's presented as the fundamental, built-in nature of this existence. It's an intense and ultimately unavoidable state of being.
And you couldn't ask for a better illustration of this than comparing the father and the son. Hiranyakashipu, the father, lied, cheated, even murdered to get ultimate power and wealth. And guess what? Even when he had it all, he was deeply, profoundly miserable. But Prahlada, his son, wanted nothing but to serve. He found real happiness not by trying to avoid misery, but by rising above it through his consciousness.
The lecture then takes this idea and expands on it, using a really stark metaphor to describe the condition that all of us are in.
Radhanath Swami's metaphor is this. We are described as being hostages. Not in a literal sense, of course, but spiritually. We're being held captive by the powerful forces of this material nature, which is called Maya.
So, who are our captors? Well, according to the lecture, they're these inner terrorists. Things like lust, anger, envy, pride, greed, and illusion. These are the powerful forces that keep us tied down, that prevent us from ever experiencing real freedom and real happiness.
And this brings us right back to Prahlada's prayer. He says he's very much afraid. But think about it. He's not afraid of death or pain. He's already stared those down without even flinching. What he's really afraid of is Maya, of material desire itself. He sees the offer of wealth and power for what it is, a temptation, a beautiful illusion that could pull him away from what's real. So he just humbly asks the Lord, please don't tempt me with this.
So if he turned down all the conventional rewards, what in the world did he actually ask for?
And what did this amazing act of selfless love end up bringing him?
His requests were just completely selfless. First, he asks to be purified of the very desires he was just offered. Second, he asks simply to be able to always remember the Lord. And then, in this unbelievable act of compassion, he asks for the liberation of his father, the same man who tried to kill him again and again. And the result of this selfless prayer was, well, it's just astonishing. The Lord was so pleased that he granted purification not just to Prahlada's father, but to 21 generations of his ancestors. It's such a powerful statement about the incredible ripple effect of pure, unmotivated love.
And here's the beautiful, ultimate irony of the entire story. After rejecting all material things, Prahlada was made the king. He was given the very same power and wealth that his father had killed to get. But the difference, and this is everything, was his motivation. Because he had zero selfish desire for it, he was able to use all of it, 100%, purely in service to others, completely transforming its purpose.
And that really leaves us with a final thought to reflect on. Prahlada saw the very things that most of us are desperately chasing, power, wealth, security, as potential obstacles, as impediments to his true happiness. So the question for us is, what are the things that we chase that might actually be the biggest roadblocks on our own path?